We're going to get started tonight with the Board of Selectmen regular meeting for Monday, March 11th. We're going to start at 7:02 p.m. And our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Public speak, we're going to move right on to that. We'll start with Diane Grenier.
Okay, I'm working it.
You're good. All good, Diane.
Oh, good. Okay, you got me. Oh, goodness. Okay, I hope you all got the email I sent earlier this afternoon
About the signs?
about the sign. Yeah.
I did. Thank you very much, Paula.
Okay, and basically, I know you're going to be discussing the welcome to Andover sign. I know you've been doing this for a while, and it just I had mentioned this a couple months ago about how there seems to be a unofficial color scheme to signs that we have in town, and I sent you a photo of the school, the Veterans Park, the library, the Monument Park, and the church. They all have this cranberry color, which is, and the new sign is all green, which is not in keeping with it.
Who's that?
John,
What's that?
he's the Joshua's Trust.
Kathy and Mike. Kathy and Mike, you want to go on mute?
Yes, we have, hello,
No,
everyone.
hold on. Diane Grenier hasn't finished yet. You just had your mic on so we could hear you. So you were interrupting. And I hate to say that to the Plausies because you know you're my favorites, but mute yourself.
They're your favorites? Oh,
Well,
God. Oh, God, you hurt my feelings.
Okay, let's go, Dan.
Anyway, so I just wanted to bring to your attention that there does seem to be a color scheme going, and before it's finalized, I was wondering if you might want to consider the color change. And the other issue was, will this be open for comments for the general public other than public speak like I've got right now? And before it gets finalized and put up, and then people comment about whether they like or don't like or whatever. So that was just my comments. Was there is a color scheme, although so unofficial, and just want to make sure that you recognize that and that I've done my due diligence and brought it to your attention.
All right, we appreciate that. Thank you. Mike and Kathy Palazzi, unmute.
To my dear friend Diane, if I did, I was speaking with my husband. I apologize, dear. Actually, to the committee, I would like you to, on your agenda for 7E, I would like you to change the word Hendy to Hutchison. That the Buddhist place is on Hutchison Road, not Hendy Road. Thank you. Do you have anything?
No, I'm set.
Okay, thank you.
You sure, Mike? Nothing?
I'm positive.
Yeah,
I live
okay.
on Hutchison.
I wasn't asking about that. I was asking if Mike had anything about that.
No, I'm good.
There we go. Okay, all right, Jeff Ballard.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I guess this is the third month that we haven't really talked about a budget or the fence permission. I had sent out some emails from Thad King regarding the fence posts, and he said that it had to be 5 feet away from the galley, and that would require 2 of the posts sitting on top of the ground. The rest of the posts would be in the ground on the other, 3 and 3/3/4 sides. And the fence on the proposal that I had written up, it's 6-foot wire, only 5 foot high.
All right, I did see the information in our packet, so we will sit there and discuss it during the meeting. Anything else?
No, the fence, and we're applying for the grant for the Hartford to do a water collection, 1,000-gallon reservoir off the garden shed and off the fire department, but Adrian had promised us last year $1,000 towards replacing the roof and gutters and downspouts and stuff, and that never happened.
All right, I also read that and I will make sure that we get that taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Bill Penn.
Good evening. I'm here for the Joshua's Trust discussions, so that's why I'm attending tonight. Thank you, and to learn about other stuff about the town. Thank you.
You are a resident, correct, Bill?
Yes, I am.
So you get to participate in public speak. So if you'd like to say anything other than the Joshua Trust, you can feel free always.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Got it. Sherry. Okay, we'll move on. Joanne Ebert.
Thanks, Jeff. I just have one, here we go, 1 second. I don't know if,
It's working.
okay, sorry. I'm trying to click buttons. I just wanted to bring up tonight, because I didn't want to wait till all the way to the end, if you were possibly all going to talk about having a town meeting maybe in the next month or so. I think there's been so many items addressed recently that will be, expenses to the town or big purchases or things of this nature. So I think it would just be so helpful. And I know you talk about doing it, so that's only my 2 cents. I'd love to see a town meeting because we're bringing a lot of things forward. There's going to be a lot of grants that are being requested or asked for, and the town kind of needs, grants are a great thing, as we all know. We love grants. It's free money. It's, money that's coming into the community, but sometimes there's a match that goes along with that, and depending on how big the grant is or how big the project is, the town match will be substantial. So just love to talk about town meetings and maybe combining them all together with the things that have been talked about. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, did I miss anyone? Sherry, I know you.
Jeff,
Hi, Attorney O'Brien.
Dennis O'Brien.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. You can hear me. All right. I have never spoken in public speak before, and I am not a town resident, but we let town residents speak in Wyndham, so I thought you'd let me speak. And this is something that is just kind of a notice. Last meeting I attended, one of the things that came up was folks from the Commission on Aging came in and asked for, the upshot was that I was supposed to look at the laws regarding the Commission on Aging and to come up with an idea as to how they could have alternates appointed without having to go through the Board of Selectmen. And I've taken the trouble of writing a minor ordinance that you could act on tonight if you'd like. I just wanted you to know it's there. I sent it out to as many of you as I've had email addresses for just in the last half hour or so. And, if you want, you can add it to the agenda. If not, it's okay by me. It's not an emergency, but it's just there and it's available. And the other thing I'd like to say, given what Joanne Hebert just said, is there's been talk of having a special town meeting for quite a while. I just want to make sure if you do schedule one, there are a lot of things that need to go on that agenda. And one of them is something that I've sent to you a while ago, and that is a proposed ordinance that would allow us to cite and fine violators of the zoning regulations, so we wouldn't have to file a lawsuit just because somebody has violated the setback. We could do it through a fine, and it's so much easier, and I've done it in other towns and it works really well. And I just want to make sure that we get all that stuff on the agenda, as Joanne has suggested, when we do have one, because they don't happen that often because it is expensive, it costs money, and it takes a lot of time. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I'll try to keep my next involvement in public speak maybe a few years away. Okay?
Wow. All right, and thank you. I did read that email on the ordinance, Dennis, so that will be something that we put on the next town meeting. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep. No problem. Did I miss anyone else? Okay, let's move on to Uh, there's an item missing from our agenda after public speak, should be add and deletes, because this is not a special meeting. The agenda was copied from a special meeting, which would not have any, but there is add and deletes. Does anyone want to add anything to the agenda or delete anything from the agenda?
Nope.
Okay,
Well, I have a question first. So 3B. Do we want to have discussion? Elaine can't make it to the meeting tonight. Do we want to keep that and have our discussion, or do we want to wait until we can ask her further questions about this?
no, let's have the discussion and then we
Okay.
can sit there and incorporate Diane Grenier's request, and we have visuals of the signs with and without the bridge, so let's have the discussion amongst the Board of Selectmen members, and then just we can push it back to Elaine after we have our discussion and if we decide to vote on anything. Anything else, Jeff? You good? Ann, you're good? Okay. We'll move on to item 3 then, boards and commission presentations, the garden club budget request. I know that we've all seen that issue before, so we had some issues with the fencing. So Jeff and his team provided us some pictures of fencing that would go along the area closest to the leach field. And I just want to ask one question. Jeff, why wouldn't you do that around the whole garden?
It wouldn't be stable enough. And there's no reason why it would have to be on top of the ground for the other 3/4 of the fencing.
Okay, all right.
We also want to get the fence on the back and front and the back and to the right side under the ground a foot so that the varmints can't get under it.
And Eric, just so we understand related to that, was the current money is a different issue, and that's related to the fencing. So we have to decide what we're going to do with that. Have you gone through that request with, you went through it with Eastern Health High District as far as what their request is? I mean, have you gone through it, and do you have any details you want to provide to us?
Well, I thought initially, like you thought, that what Jeff was proposing was to do the entire fence with a movable fence. I didn't realize until this evening that his intention was just to do 2 little corner sections with a removable fence and permanently mount the other fence. So most of the fence is not in the leach field. It would obviously, it is in the repair area. So if we had a problem with our, septic system, the first thing we would do is tear out the entire community gardens where it exists now. But there's no indication that we're going to need to do that in the short term.
All right, so my question to you is the areas where they're going to permanently install that fence impact anything related to the new community center or to any other issue that you have related to this?
Well, it's going to be a lot of visual impact. I mean, it blocks your view of the wood line and, nature, I guess. It just depends what your priorities are. If you want to look at a chicken wire fence out the community center, that's what you'll see.
It's not chicken wire, it's a 2x3 square. And it's John Bolton's got the model on Hebron Road that you can see.
Okay, I'm asking, I understand your issue, Eric, but I'm asking you is if they install those in the ground permanently, is there any negative impact that you can tell us directly about, other than aesthetics?
As long as I stay far enough away from the leach field, no.
Okay, all right. So, now comes the other part of this is, do we have the money in any other account at this point in time that, I'm basically telling you to come back. If we chose to do this, we as a board need to know it's somewhere available. If we chose to do this, and if we choose not to do it, then we don't have to worry about it, but we need to know if it's available, because what they're asking for initially is out of the current year's budget.
I mean, if you take it out of this year's budget at this point, I would say you're taking it out of contingency. Because with 4 months of the budget to go, I don't know that I'm comfortable with any specific spot saying this budget line item is going to be under. I have a couple I think are probably going to be considerably under, but not that I'm willing to bank on at this point.
Okay, and Jeff, just so I understand it, you're asking us for $2,400 for a fence for the community garden out of this year's budget.
That is correct.
All right. And so Eric, you're telling us it would be out of contingency at this point in time.
That's where I would take it.
Okay. Do any other board members have issue related to this or an opinion related to the fencing for the
Me at all?
community garden?
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my other microphone working, but I'm really concerned about putting a fence up until that community center is completely done and we have everything seeded and backfilled. I would
Okay.
like to see the community center done before we put any fences up.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion, because I just think if we're gonna try to grade and this fence is up there, it could cause problem with the contractors.
Okay. Anybody else?
Eric, I have a question for you. You're saying that the fencing is on the leach field that's that's in use right now?
No, he said it was in the repair area.
The reserve
The
area?
whole garden's in the repair area.
No, that's
No,
not totally
no.
what I said. What Jeff originally proposed was a 10-foot wide away from where the gardens are. At 10 feet, it overlaps. Those posts would be sitting right on top of the galleys. They would be on the galleys. At 5 feet, they're right on the edge of the galleys, because remember, these are concrete galleys that are pretty wide. So what he's proposing, but they only overlap on a portion of the leach field. So what Jeff is basically proposing is that on that portion, they don't put any permanent anything in the ground, because they can't get a permit from that, to do it anyway from Eastern Highlands Health District. And then once they get past that area, then they put permanent posts in the ground, areas that are more than 5 feet away from the galleys and therefore out of the technical leach field. That is what he's proposing.
And I'd like to say that we're not going to be concreting the posts into the ground. We're going to be filling around the posts with crushed stone.
Okay, and so from what I read, Eastern Health districts reviewed this and sat there and said that they were not okay with the fences in the ground in the areas that Eric is talking about. So what Jeff was telling, the fence would be three quarters permanent and 1/4 not permanent, sitting on the ground. And Jeff sent us an image of a fence design that they had built.
Right.
And my question, Scott, was, could we use that fence all the way around the garden? Because then that way, what it would do for us on a short-term basis, in my head, I kind of had the same concerns that Jeff Murray was saying, is that when you're in an area like that, you never know what's going to happen in a construction site until it's totally finished. So if you actually put them above ground or on the ground level, then you can move them if you needed to. But it's a issue for the rest of the.
this front could be made the way that you're suggesting. And Eric, just to be clear about that whole thing, you said that if something happened to the septic system, the community garden would be torn out. That was a quote from you.
Yes,
Okay.
it
Now,
would have to be.
the community garden, just in a second to that, I would say that was put in by the town crew, and they wouldn't have put it on the reserve nor our galleys right now, as it was. They wouldn't know. So I'm just curious of why
Of
you
course, they
said
put it on the reserve.
that. They didn't put, it's not on the reserve, Eric.
Okay,
Okay, listen, the issue of Eric saying that it would be torn out, if it is on the repair area, then the answer would be yes, it would probably have to go. But we don't have problems with our septic in totality. Yes, we have some concerns, and yes, there are some things that are going on. That whole space has to be understood as it's a, if we needed to do a repair, there's going to be issues. We would do everything possible not to have it impact the gardens. I mean, listen, let's all be honest. We would all do whatever we could not to have it impact the gardens. Eric is being extremely linear and blunt in his assessment of he's reading the maps, and he is reading the maps correctly, I bet, Scott, but he's stating a fact that while it may be true, could have been stated differently. I'm sorry. So Jeff, the issue is we will do everything we can not to impact the community gardens, but we as a board do not control the way that the septic system functions between the town and the school and everything else that's
I
there.
understand that,
I would say putting the back fence permanently in and then do the sides and the front, as you suggested, that probably would straighten this whole mess out.
Well, it was approved by Eastern Health Districts with that caveat.
It's not in the ground, so it doesn't matter.
Correct. So Eastern Health Districts was acceptable to that
Yeah.
as an alternative. Now the question goes, which was raised by Jeff, is that it is a construction site still. And
It
Scott,
is,
you know that better than anybody. You know the whole area better than anybody. What do you think? You think those three sides?
I'm telling you, I'm saying that if you permanently put the back in and then do the sides and the front, like that thing that Jeff Ballard made up, that would work for me.
Okay.
Then they can be moved whenever you wanted to.
But not the whole unit. The
No,
three
no.
sides are permanently in the ground, and if there becomes a problem with the community center, those three sides become problematic.
Yeah, you could move them then. We made them
You can't
portable.
move them. He's not making them portable. The three sides he's burying in the ground, a foot down with I'm sure it's like chicken wire in the ground, Jeff, to stop critters from digging under. And he's putting crushed stone on top of that. And, he's going to sit there and have posts permanently buried in the ground on three sides. And then on a quarter of the unit, which is closest to the leach field, he's going to use the movable fences.
Yeah.
They ride on top of the ground. They're built on like a
That's
2x8.
good. That's what I said.
And so I'm asking you again, the three sides that he's burying, are they problematic if we have issues with community center?
I think he can rate
Hypothetical.
the grading. A lot of the grading is going to be done this coming week.
Okay. All right. Jeff, growing season starts when, sir?
We want everything in the ground by Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
At the latest.
All right. So Jeff,
Yeah,
you know what we have? We have one more month to sit there on this fence issue to get you an answer. So it's March 11th. We have another meeting in April. Scott, you're telling us that most of the grading in the community center will be done by then?
I'm hoping that the back, he said he's going to bring a dozer and a lot of everything's going to be moved around this coming week.
Okay, Eric, does that align with your timing?
I mean, my timing is your timing. I mean, I think you're right. The excavator is going to be in working pretty hard, and they're going to be raising the grade up and trying to establish final grades, get the leach field in, get the holding tanks in, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Certainly within the next month to 6 weeks.
Okay, all right. Then, Jeff, what I'm going to recommend is that we push this off till next month. And once we get the community, because if all of that, all of the grading is done by the time of our next meeting, we'll have a much better understanding. And Jeff, I will work with you on the roofing issues that you talked about. And I will also work with Eric on trying to find a potential area. If we can find the funding for it, we'll at least have a better understanding at our next meeting where we would take some of that money. So unless other members of the board have an issue related to that, or they'd like to see something moved forward right now.
I think waiting, we have time.
Okay. All right, Jeff, thank you very much for the information. I appreciate it.
I have a quick question for Jeff. Actually two questions for your 2024-2025 budget. So you're talking about using the roof gutter water collection pipe, and then you're asking or mentioning install water and electricity. So can you explain to me if we're having water and electricity put at the community center, what were you thinking to use that for the garden?
A combination of both. It would, more recycling rainwater, so we're not depleting the well water for a water shortage, more sustainability and more environmentally sound. And I have serious doubts you're going to get me water and power this growing season.
What how
when you-
was the conversation left? So I talked to the person that offered the resources for the roof, and he said that you were emailing back and forth. So what happened with that conversation? Where was that left off with? Because you're saying that the materials weren't given to you, but he's saying that he offered them and you didn't hear back.
That's not.
We'll deal with that later. Like, I'd rather not deal with that in a public meeting. So Jeff, like I said, Paula and I will deal with you on that, and we will get that situated. That's going to happen somehow. My question is with Paula, I'm going to go on Paula because I read that, but I didn't read item 4 on the second page. Install water and electricity. What are you requesting? You're requesting that during construction, we run water and electricity out to the community gardens and you can have your own supply?
That's correct. The garden shed is already wired for power, and we're proposing to do a water collection of 1,000-gallon reservoir and a shallow well pump to pump it to the already installed irrigation system in front of the beds. When we were running a hose from the fire department, it was losing pressure. We didn't have sufficient pressure to water the whole bed, and it took like a day to keep moving sprinklers. And
Okay, and so that we're going to have to address with Eric after, because I don't think that was in the plans. I mean, Scott, are you aware that that's in the plan?
I was not aware of any of that. We put a faucet in the back of the community center so that the garden people can use the water. But I have never heard anything about any power or 1,000-gallon tank. No,
Well, the water, I mean, he's basically looking for water to be run.
there's a hose.
Right, but if you read the way he has it written, he says via the community center. So he was thinking it was off of the community center, not
So an
anywhere else.
extension cord and a hose. Okay, all right. Well, let's not deal with this on this meeting. Let's we'll talk with Eric, because we've got to make sure that what we're doing is accurate. And I'm not sure that we as a community We gotta work on that one, because you're not gonna wanna run that stuff above ground across, your patio. So let's sit there and, see what we can do related to that. All right, any
Yeah,
other
Jeff,
questions for Jeff?
electrical, if we're talking about electrical of that shed, you're talking about a significant cost. We have to trench and bury conduit and, separate lighting panel and the whole 9 yards. So it's a lot of work, a lot of money.
A lot of work and a lot of money. Electrical is.
Okay. All right, let's we'll talk about that and just sit there and see if there's any viable alternative to running a hose and a cord above ground across to the community gardens. So, all right. Anything else that anybody wants to ask Jeff Ballard or this issue? Okay, Eric, make sure this is on old business for next meeting, please.
Okay,
3B, Economic Development Committee and the welcome sign. In our packet, we got visuals from Elaine in multiple formats. It's on page 8. She provided us welcome to Andover, the Hop River Corridor. Welcome to Andover, established 1848. And she gave us one, welcome to Andover, established 1848 with the bridge. So, and then one with a special welcome text. Does anybody have any issues with any of these? I know we've talked about the bridge before, and now Diane has brought into it a color issue. Anybody have any issues? How do
So
we
we,
want to go about to do this?
yeah, we talked, so last month we asked Elaine to come back with us with a different font. So I think that's addressed in this, and removing the covered bridge. I think I don't know if somebody can share their screens or if we want to keep going through with what we have in the packet, but number 2 has it's just a clean font. It's not, oh, here we go. Thank you.
is that the one you want?
Yeah.
Scroll up just a little. I think that's the one. Yeah. Yep, that one. So that one, it looks clean. It's not hard to read because of the font. The script is better, or taken off rather. And I've been driving around and kind of noticing what other towns have been doing. So most areas don't have any logo or branding on it, because the purpose of the sign is to welcome the person to the town, and you want to make sure that that's a clear message. So I think this one does that with the font fixed and taking the covered bridge off. And my thoughts on what Diane shared, AES, their brand is red, white, and black. So that's why their sign is, kind of matches that. And I think the thinking with this green goes along with what the website looks like. So when we were creating the website with Civic, we went with green because it's kind of like a fresh new look to it. So I think this would go with, I would love to have millions of dollars to rebrand the town and make sure that all the signs match and everything is up to date. But I think this is a process that we will have to think about for future stuff. But I think this is just a clean design with the green, and it goes with our fresh look to our website. The red down at Veterans, I'm going to say it right, Diane, Veterans Memorial Fields, that's an older sign, and that was probably what was popular back in the day. So maybe in another budget cycle, we can update the rest of the signs in town. But my opinion and my thoughts are, I like the green. It stands out. It looks clean, and it goes with the website. So just my thoughts that I'm sharing.
Okay. I agree with you on the sign that you chose. I do believe that that is the nicest looking of the sign. I like that it's a consistent font with the exception of the established 1848. And then I too, Paula, have been looking at other signs, and Mansfield actually has their name in a curly Q kind of design. And I think that's something that they use consistently, probably through their letterhead and all the rest of their town documentation. But if I was going to vote on one, I would vote on that one as well. Well, anyone else?
The only
Yeah,
concern
I've
I
been
have in the
looking
whole,
around too.
Yep.
the only
I've
concern
been
I have
looking
is, in
around. I
this-
took a look.
go ahead, Ann.
Okay, I noticed that in Columbia, in the center of town, they have a sign that does not show up well. It's large enough, but it was dark colors and the letters didn't show up. I think this one will show up pretty well. I do like these colors and I like the second sign here, this one. That's my choice.
Yep, it's my choice as well. The only concern I do have is, it looks like it's wrapped all in composite, but then we're doing pressure treated posts cemented in the ground. So we need to be aware that the lifetime, I mean, those are gonna rot eventually and the sign is gonna fall over. So if we're talking a couple $100 more to go with something that's a little bit more, has more longevity to it than pressure treated wood, I'd be open to it when we do the installation. And that's pretty much my only criticism of the sign.
I echo what Jeff Murray just said.
Okay,
Cause
so
it's gonna rot and it's gonna fall over and probably,
Good sign.
good sign, but we should probably do better on the posts.
okay,
If you can.
let's make a recommendation to Elaine related to this sign. So Eric or Paula, when Elaine calls, please let her know about the sign, let her know about the concerns about the posts and what's installed in the ground. And then one last thing, because of where it's located, it might help if the letters are in some type of reflective material. Because it will not be, well, I guess we've talked about potentially having it be some kind of solar lighting to the sign, but I don't think that's in the budget here. So
Can I ask Eric? Eric, can you scroll up? I think this might help with so look at this sign. What do you think the material is on the bottom there?
It looks like it's just something on the outside. Some stucco or
PVC, doesn't say, huh? So would that be helpful with having it not fall over? Or we're not sure what the material is.
Well, if you're gonna cement them
masonry.
in, I would just do hollow PVC squares, 4x4 square posts, and just fill them with rebar and cement. And then that way you've got a rot-proof base. So down the road, if you ever have to change a sign, that base is gonna be there for hundreds of years.
Okay.
There's another way to do it. It's gonna add about $100 to the cost.
Okay. So I'm gonna talk to Elaine about reflective letters and then making sure the bottom of the posts are rot proof. Okay.
Do we need to
PVC
check
with
with,
cement.
yeah, do we need to check with Connecticut DOT if anything reflective on the highway or off the highway?
good
I don't
question.
know.
'Cause I know highway signs are reflective. I just don't know what putting a sign up with a reflective material on it would have any ramifications.
Isn't the new sign at the Andover Plaza reflective? No? Okay.
Reflective white vinyl.
Sorry. Okay.
White
Um,
plastic.
Does anybody want to further discuss the sign?
No, we're
okay.
almost there.
All right, let's go. Let's move on to item 3, board and commission presentations.
So
We've already
if
gone.
we go on,
We've
are
already
you
done,
making
sorry.
a motion to approve that?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the the welcome to Andover sign with the same font established in 1848 with improved footings to provide for longer term stability to the sign. That will be my motion.
What
I'll
about,
second.
what about addressing the reflective and the price?
Well, she already has that in her budget. So she has money in the budget to do this year. Whether she chooses to use reflective lettering, whether we choose to use reflective lettering or not will depend upon a couple things. So if you want me to put that in, so I'll make a motion to approve the welcome to Andover sign using the same font with the established in 1848 with improved footings and the possibility of using reflective lettering on the sign if it conforms with DOT regulations.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussions? Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to make an amendment that it's a green sign with gold lettering. Okay. And Jeff, will you still accept that green sign, gold lettering?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right. Further discussion. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Um, item 4, appointments, Eric.
There are no appointments.
Okay. Item 5, resignations.
So there are 3 resignations that I'm aware of. Sorry, they came too late to make your packet. Kathy Palazzi has resigned from the old Andover Burial Ground Committee and the EDC. And I believe Mike Palazzi has resigned from the Conservation Commission, but he's continuing to run CART in the short term until his replacement is trained. And that's all the information I have on that.
Okay.
Other than to thank them both for many, many, many years of service to the town.
Yeah. I want to echo that. Mike and Kathy, thank you very much for all the time you've put into those 3 groups. We still look forward to seeing you around quite often, right?
Well, we're still on some committees. We haven't ended all of our relationship with our wonderful town. And anyway, I have to see Eric from time to time so he doesn't forget me. And thank you for everything you guys have done. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Eric, on resignations or just those 3?
Just those 3 that I know of.
All right. Let's move on to item 6, the town administrator's report.
Okay, we got a lot of the agenda, so I'm going to keep this kind of short. It was a busy month for me. The budget is off of your plate and onto the Board of Finance. The first meeting for Board of Finance starts in 2 days, first budget meeting. So I'm looking forward to that. So we submitted the grant for the LOTSIP application for the Route 316 connectivity project. That is around a $2.9 million grant. If we get it, construction is 100% funded through the LOTSIP program, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted that grant application. I also submitted today a grant application for the DEP Rec Trails program for what we talked about, which is the second half of that as a loop trail that would go back through town property. I think the chances of getting that is fairly low, but we had just simply because, you know, they tend to get 7 to 10 times as many applications as they have funding available. So that's a really competitive grant application. So that's a long shot for us, but it's worth pursuing. And we're just asking for the design money. We have the route established. We know where the route will be, but it would take a fair bit of design and engineering to get up the slope. So that's what that is for. We do have one RFP that closed a week ago, which is for inspection services for the federal local bridge program for Bunker Hill Bridge. We got 9 applications to that. The review pool for this is kind of dictated by DOT, so it's not really necessarily in our hands. It looks like the review committee will be Mark Burns, who's the principal engineer for DOT for that program. Ed Srisley representing the town, myself representing the town, town engineer Todd Penny. He's not the town's, not Andover's engineer, but he's Coventry's. And that's it. So that will be the review committee for that. I had wanted to put our town engineer from Nathan Jacobson on, but the DOT decided that that was a conflict since they also apply through the federal local bridge program. So they didn't want their engineer reviewing one set of inspections while their company performs inspections for other people. So that's where that went. So I talked about this briefly the other day or last month, but we had been working on for quite a while a new arrangement for animal control services for town, going into a 3-way partnership between Andover, Hebron, and Columbia. That's kind of fallen apart. So we will re-sign a contract with Mid-Nerock and continue, or not Mid-Nerock, with NECOG to provide animal control services for the town. So not ideal, but it's still a functional relationship. So no problems with that. The committee, and Scott could probably talk to this better, that's reviewing the specifications on what they want both for the playground and the pickleball courts is still meeting. So that's exciting, but that will need to go to town meeting again coming up fairly soon. We did order the poop dispensers and we have them in for the ball field. We're still waiting on the signage, the additional signage to come in. Hopefully we'll have that fairly quickly. And then there is we started to get some significant erosion on one of the smaller streams that runs, that Bunker Hill Road is on, not the main, not the Hop River one, but one of the smaller culverts. So Public Works is going to have some repair work to do there when the water goes down a little bit. It's not, we're catching it early enough that there's no real significant damage, but we want to be careful with that location because that is a location, that is a culvert that we know is you know, not in the best shape. So that is it. I put in the packet a schematic which shows both the proposed route for the multi-use trail down Hebron Road and Cider Mill, as well as the proposed Hop River trailhead and path through the woods. So you have both of those in your packet to talk about. And that's basically all I want to say, unless you have specific questions for me.
You noted on your notes, I'm not sure which one it was, that the town engineer was speaking to the DOT to renew access on Hutchinson Road.
So we are, one of the issues, you know, that you're well aware of is the culvert on Hutchinson Road that's been in kind of failure mode for a while. And that's an expensive culvert to replace today. That's a 1.2 million or so project. So what we've been discussing, because the town land borders on the other side of the river, on Hutchinson Road essentially goes all the way up to Route 6. The concept of putting back in another access point on the other side of Hutchinson Road, and therefore we could just abandon the bridge over Hutchinson Road. And the only real people that would be affected is there's one house, there's the Buddhist monastery, and then there's the farm access to the post farm. But they would just all enter from the other side as opposed to that side. So that's kind of what we're looking at as a cost savings measure. You know, and trying to keep our, you know, so we don't use essentially a state local bridge program dollars and then, you know, 600,000 or 700,000 of town dollars to fix that. We think we can do it cheaper by doing that.
I wanted to,
my
I wanted you to note that the farm equipment is very big equipment. Needs to get onto that farm.
Yep.
Eric, in your report for the community senior center, you said, talk about this verbally. Do you have anything, any updates or anything? I know there was a walkthrough, but anything that you want to share?
Sure, and both Scott and Jeff can chime in. You know, the site contractor is starting major excavation work tomorrow. So like in the next couple of days, we're gonna start moving gravel, or they're gonna start moving gravel from our pit. We'll load them and they'll start doing the fill for that location. They gotta strip the topsoil first, move the fence line back a little bit, but they're getting ready to do the major excavation portion of that. So we kind of worked out scheduling. We all had a kind of a meeting of the minds of who's doing what and when. So I think we're in reasonable shape there. And then we did a walkthrough of the building. You know, I gave them the punch list that I had of things that still needed to be corrected before insulation. The only thing of that's really of note that we are going to have to figure out how to do is there are bath fans going in the basement in the 2 bathrooms, even though we're not finishing off the basement. The ventilation was supposed to go in before the ceilings went on. And that's a little problematic based on how that spot is framed. So I've gone back to Leading Edge with a proposal about how I think it could be done. And we're going to talk to the HVAC contractor on site tomorrow. Because they really hadn't they had bought the fans for it, but the fans they bought don't actually fit in the bays because the building's framed 12 inches on center. So we got to rethink that a little bit, but that's underway. You know, they're trying to push with the hope of by the end of this week, starting on the insulation work, but they have a lot of things they got to get done between now and then before that can happen. But, you know, that's where they're shooting for.
Okay, Eric, you have a picture on page 17 of a culvert. It's at the bottom of your report underneath
Yep.
What is that?
So that's the culvert I just talked about. That is on Bunker Hill Road. That's like a double 48-inch culvert. And what you're looking at is the embankment has eroded away a lot. So you're into like the old mortared structure and it's starting to undermine the wing wall. So Jay is working with the Wetlands Commission on that, just to make sure that we have a solution that they're going to be happy with. But basically what they're going to do is right in the water at the base of that, they're going to plunk in a couple of really large, you know, like man-sized ballast rocks and then recreate that bank and reinforce that bank so they don't have further erosion. That's the plan at this point.
Okay. And then do you have an update on the state work being done on Boston Hill?
I do. The only real update I have is they asked for, you know, about a 5-day extension because there were a couple days where the water levels were too high for them to work in that area. So as far as I know, that's pushed, the completion date's pushed back about 5 days.
Pushed back till April 10th,
Must be the 27th.
27th?
Yeah, it's I mean, they were supposed to be finished by the end of March. So I think they're probably looking at, very first, maybe a week in April, like that. I actually have it written down. I just don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
The engineer sent me something the other day.
Can we get a post out there with an update if that hasn't happened yet, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions of Eric?
Yeah, I just have a quick one for you, Eric. You were talking about these trail grants and a loop trail. The one you're talking about is the one from the rail trail all the way back to the school, correct? Or town hall?
Correct.
Okay.
I
It
mean,
sounded
they
like there was two different grants out there. I just want to make sure we were just talking about one single grant and this was the trail that you had in the packet.
No, we are talking about two different grants.
Okay,
If
what's
you
this,
look at-
what's this separate grant? Because this is first I've heard about it.
Okay, I've mentioned this at multiple Board of Selectmen meetings, that our approach was to, because they're essentially neither grant application can fund the other trail. Like, for instance, if you look at here, I'll show my screen. So if you look at the green path is the low SIP application. That is a grant that we stand a really good chance of getting. The fallback position is to run a trail through the woods. There is a lot of, downside to that. There's some upside, but a lot of downside to doing that. So the green trail is a lot SIP application. That's one completely separate entity. But DOT, or actually CROG, said that they were more favorable of trail connection applications if they formed a loop trail. So we solved that by applying for both grants simultaneously for different routes. But this one, the one in red, we're only applying for design money. We're not applying to build it. We're just applying to produce a final design so that it could be built at some time later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense now. I just thought we were talking about two separate projects instead of this one project. So now makes sense to me now.
Well, they are actually two completely separate projects with two completely separate funding sources.
But
that
it's intended to be one loop. That's the intention.
If we ever got money for both of them and we could build them, it would be a loop. But
Okay, that's why that's why I was hung up when you were
years
talking
down the
about
road.
loop, and I didn't know what we were talking about when we said loop. So
right.
that's what hung me up a little bit. So okay, I'm good.
Okay. Should have been more clear on that.
Okay, anything else for Eric? All right, Eric, thank you. Let's move on to item 7, old business. 7A, Joshua's trust discussion.
Okay, so I will lead off this one. At the last meeting, you asked us to go back and get kind of harder numbers. You asked us to come back and do two things. One, reach out to Mr. Fabian and make sure that we had addressed his concerns with the project. Remember, he was the abutter that had some issues or some questions to the board at a previous meeting. And the second thing was understand what the cost basis would be to complete a parking area. So I asked Jay to put together essentially two proposals. The first would be a Taj Mahal approach. If we did everything that he would like to do as part of this, and then the second thing would be a more limited, fully functional parking area with a good gravel base, but disposing of material on site as opposed to chipping it all and trucking it all off site. Not taking down as many trees, still visible from the road, but not to the same level of finish. So that is what was done, and both of those were in your packet. And so I think that we've satisfied, and then at the same time, Joshua's Trust has agreed to help the town with the clearing of all the junk that's on the town's property, all the tires, you know, and the metal and all the material that was deposited there by the people we got the property from originally, and do all the markouts of the boundaries of the town property, which is good because we don't really have the capability to do that themselves. So that's kind of where we're at. I would suggest that probably John Hankins, the president.
Excuse me, can I speak about the Joshua Trail? My name is Sherry Mashad, and the trail abuts me, and I have serious concerns with safety and privacy. And it's all the traffic I saw go through there came in, entered on my property line, not where you have it ribboned off. Then when you cross over, people are up on the back ridge of my house. You bought that corner of the property, the state bought that corner of the property, but people are standing and talking and having conversations and pointing in my backyard. And I live alone, I'm a widow, and I don't feel safe. And then my neighbor across the street, she has to have a light left on at night because her car gets broken into. So we're gonna have litter, and then you only want people who walk. What about the people who are mountain bikers or ride dirt bikes? You know who litters? The people who walk. But I want that. I am not happy where the ribbons are located, especially in the back of my property, because I don't need people standing on the top and having conversations and hanging out and looking at in my backyard.
Okay, Sherry, thank you very much. I know that we have spoken to some of your neighbors who participated in the survey previously. And so what we'll end up doing is we'll end up trying to, I would ask the Joshua Trust folks to maybe get with Sherry after this. I know there's more work, but it would be beneficial to everybody if we understood what is being proposed. But it is a.
And how are you gonna buffer the traffic?
Sherry, that's why I asked you during public speak to speak. During meetings, it's only supposed to be Board of Selectmen and people
I'm sorry.
that are requested to participate. And now we appreciate you letting us know, we do, but you should have spoken during public speak just to let you know in the future. So what we need to do as a group and with Joshua Trust and the people in the town is work with Sherry to get her to understand exactly what's being proposed and understand what we're attempting to do with that property and see if we can satisfy some of her concerns that she's expressed to us today. So I would ask John, and did you sit there and speak with Mr. Fabian and have discussions with Mr. Fabian about?
Yes. So I wanted to discuss a few things. We met with Mr. Fabian twice. That's Bill Penn, who's on the line, who will be the steward for this property, and I met with him twice. He had expressed some of the same kinds of concerns that Sherry had, and we worked with him to pull that trail 30 or 40 feet away from his property line, and he's very pleased with the new location. He's indicated he's excited about using the trail himself. So okay. I think he wrote a letter of something in your packet. I would consider him at this point a supporter of what we're doing out there. I wanted to talk very briefly about what Joshua's Trust is offering the town, because since I spoke last in January, I've brought this up with the board of Joshua's Trust, and Joshua's Trust has agreed to pay the first $8,000 of the parking lot, which is the amount essentially that Eric described as the basic model of the parking lot. So of course the town can build whatever kind of parking lot they want, but we are willing to pay that first $8,000. In addition, we will provide a steward. That's going to be, and that steward is Bill Penn, Andover resident. Bill will be responsible for maintaining the trail. He's also going to make periodic visits to the parking lot to make sure there's no litter. we don't have big problems with litter on our properties. We just don't. And when we do, we take care of it. Even less problem with litter out on the property itself. Eric mentioned that we're going to be marking the boundaries. We've already marked the boundary between the town and the Joshua's Trust property. We will also be marking the boundary of the back lots on Wheeling Road, so that will be much more clear than it's been. Eric mentioned that we'll provide a volunteer force to help the town pick up the debris that's on town property. And then the final thing that we'll provide you with is, and we would work with the town on this, on providing signage and a kiosk at the trailhead. And one very brief item that I would just mention that addressed Sherry's comments a minute ago. The folks have walked up the property line into the property because currently there's not good access where the trail is going to be. It's terribly overgrown. We have worked to pull the trail away from, if I understand and I think I know the property she's talking about, we've worked to pull the trail away so there's not significant sight line into the backyard of that property from the trail itself. And we would be willing to look at that again with her to see if there's any more modifications that could be made.
Okay, appreciate that. If we can we sit there and maybe recommend that John, you and Mr. Penn get together with Sherry at the property and discuss it, if Sherry, that would be acceptable to you, because we would like all the stakeholders to be satisfied with this and, do the best possible job we can to make this agreeable to everybody that lives in that area. So if that's possible for the two of you, and then we can sit there and vote on this next month as to where we need to go, if that's acceptable to everybody. All right.
Yeah, I'm acceptable to it. And after walking it, I definitely need to have some concerns.
Sure. And we'd just like you to sit there and understand exactly where the Joshua Trust Group is planning that trail, where we've all walked it, because you've probably seen some of us out there walking the trail just to get an understanding of where it is.
Yeah, I've been in my backyard and had someone 50 feet from me looking at me on the edge of my property. So
And
not knowing what it
that's the
is
case.
and then having it's disturbing when many times when I heard voices, there's people at the top of the ridge of my back property staring and pointing at my backyard.
Okay.
And hanging out.
If it was us, Sherry, we apologize. We didn't mean it that way. We were just trying to get a lay of the land and understand what we were doing and what could be done with that property, because it's a beautiful
Don't you
property.
think it would make sense for people's feeling it, especially not knowing that you would let people know the budding property prior to going in and starting walking around and hanging out in my backyard?
Sherry, we did.
Concerning me. I'm just wondering.
I'm going to, we actually, through the Joshua's Trust, and I'll sit there and go, Eric, did we communicate with all the abutters on that property?
I believe we sent letters to every abutter of that property.
Yeah,
Okay.
you sent it to me after I've had traffic in my backyard for 6 months or for months. So
Right.
that's my concern. Is I live alone.
Yeah, and Sherry, I appreciate your concerns. But we were respectful of your property, and we were sitting there and trying to address this in the best possible way we could as we were going through and evaluating this. So
I'm just saying, if you had strangers coming in near your property and walking around, wouldn't you like to know what was going on ahead of time? Could that be concerning to you as a citizen?
Sherry, absolutely, but that's why
That's all I want to know.
But that's why we communicated to you and wanted to get your feedback early on in this process. So what I'm going to request is that we all get together and we meet with Sherry individually and sit there and go through where this potential, because Sherry, there is no trail currently on that property. It's a proposed trail that
I
would
understand that.
be modified to sit there and hopefully make it acceptable to you. So what we're gonna try to do is get with you to sit there and see where your property is in relation to the proposed trail, and if we need to make some modifications, we will. And hopefully we can sit there and make it work for everybody involved. But I will tell you, Sherry, that we did sit there and as a board request that every abutting property owner be communicated with to express their concerns 2 months ago. So, and while we appreciate you coming on to our meeting tonight and doing it,
I've been feeling stigma from the administration in this town. So I have not been able to feel like I can communicate all the time. So that's part of the reason.
understood. And what we'll try to do is, and if it's okay with everybody, if we can sit there and Mr. Penn, especially if you can sit there and being an Andover resident and being the trail administrator, if we can get this moving, if you can get with Sherry and walk the area near her house, that would be appreciated to us. And then we'll be able to sit there and address it.
I understand, and I live right next to the rail trail, so I'm used to people going past my property and hearing them and stuff. So I understand, I can appreciate her concern, and John and I will meet with her and look at the trail and hopefully come to consensus on the solution.
All right, I appreciate that. Anybody else on the board have any other issues related to this tonight? No.
Well, I
Okay.
just think we gotta decide if the parking lot is gonna be feasible for us to go forward with it.
Well, we better understand that we have an area for a trail that is acceptable to everybody and that this board will approve. Because if I understood it correctly, Joshua's Trust was willing to front the costs on proposal 2, which would mean there would be no cost to the town potentially on the parking lot.
Correct, but there's still a lot of things that are missing out of that $8,000. So we have to make sure that that's feasible to us, that it's acceptable. And as the pictures I sent to you on South River Road of the lot in Coventry, if we don't do this right, we're gonna have a mud pit up there. I mean, especially this time of year. There's been cars stuck in that lot down in South River Road because it wasn't done properly. And I don't want to have a muddy mess up there just because we want to save $8,000.
Okay. Understood. And so Eric, just so we understand, the parking lot that the town crew built on Lake Road is closer to which proposal?
That is closer to proposal number 2.
Closer to proposal number 2. Okay.
That was about 10,000 just in materials.
Okay, but this is a much smaller parking lot, but the construction methods that you would use or the town crew would use to build the parking lot, I mean, listen, the Lake Road parking area is gorgeous. I mean, honestly, I drive by it every day. It's really nice. It's well used. It seems to be easy to maintain. If this parking area that's on this property was similar to that, I think we would all probably have to agree that that would be acceptable to us. So,
Yeah, the only issue I
parking-
have is there's just a couple issues I have. Is just like the piling the brush. Basically, we're just gonna have a big brush pile there instead of chipping it. There's just some other issues. There's some other things there that we should probably be aware of before we move ahead to see if we want to change that or not. Should we chip it, or are we just gonna have a big pile of brush there and for the neighbors to look at? That's another thing. So
okay.
we may clean up one mess, but then we're gonna create another.
Correct. And so I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's some things in Jay's proposal that I had questions with outright anyway, but I do think those questions can be asked of Eric and of Jay. In the interim, we need to assuage Sherry's concerns related to the trail to get back to where we had all said that, or not all of us, but we were trying to make sure that all the neighbors and all of the abutters were comfortable with what we were attempting to do. So.
So are you saying we're gonna? You want to put this off until next month to talk about it again?
Yes, I
So-
do.
until we talk to Jerry.
Correct. Anybody else have a problem with that?
No.
I mean, a
All I was gonna
project-
say, for the $8,000 one, Jeff, you know, if they put fabric down, they boxed it out and put fabric down and then put the material on, you'd have a much better base and you wouldn't get muds like Jeff Murray's suggesting. That one on South River Road is a big mess. Drain better if you put fabric in, then you'd keep it keeps the material that you're putting in away from the material that the base material. So you would have, you know, 6 inches of good material that would drain.
Okay. Well, we can get past that if we can all agree upon where the trail would how the trail would be laid out, and then we can get to the parking area because you know, I'll speak on behalf of myself and the town. We appreciate Joshua's trust, all the work that you guys have done related to this, and we appreciate the offer of funding the first $8,000 in the parking lot. It is appreciated. So, but let's get past the current issue that we're dealing with, and let's make sure that all of the abutters are as comfortable as they can be possibly made so that we can sit there and all move forward in the initial stages of this hand in hand, if possible. Okay.
All right.
All right.
See you next month.
All right. Thank you very much. And Sherry, we will sit there and be reaching out to you to sit there and walk the property with you and the trail with you so you understand exactly what the thought is related to this.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
No problem. Okay, let's move on to item 7, staff discussion on affordable housing with town planner. Nothing needed on this.
So I'm just gonna give you a 5-second update. I pulled the list of all the town properties. And I pulled the list of all the properties that abut the Route 6 that are greater than 5 acres, and I gave that to the town planner to review. As we already alluded to, the only real properties that the town currently owns that would be amenable for a housing discussion is the property that the town hall and school, this area right here, the municipal complex, and then the one behind the transfer station. So the rest of the properties are basically unsuitable due to location or size, or lack of access. But we'll look at other properties also and get back to you on that.
All right, thank you. 7C Community Center construction update. I believe we've already gone through that. Does Scott or Jeff want to add anything at this time?
No, Eric went through it pretty good.
All
Nope,
right.
I'm good.
All right, 7D, discussion of blight and level of involvement. I know Eric talked about that, but go ahead, Eric. You got anything to add there?
I don't really have anything to add at this point.
Okay. Dennis did send us an ordinance draft related to fines. It's something that we definitely need to consider and get that at the next town meeting. And Dennis, I would just sit there and ask if there's any other ordinances. When we get to the next town meeting, let's vote on ordinances that we need to get in place so that you know, whether it's this one related to zoning and fines or fining in general, but let's sit there and also think of any of the other ordinances that the town should really have in place that we don't.
Very good, Jeff. I am looking over the ordinances to see ones that I would recommend to add fines and penalties to, so we could use our current ordinance that allows us to cite and fine people who violate our ordinances. There would be fines attached to them, and it would make it more meaningful and hopefully more likely that we'll be able to, you know, keep people away from violating in the long run, and we'll have less to do in that regard.
All right, that would be appreciated. Thank you. 7E, Hendy Road, Buddhist Road impacts. Eric, is there anything to update us on that?
So we did, when I say we, I mean Jim Hallisey sent a letter to them again stating, hey, you're basically a religious institution here. You need to go through and file the proper applications. They've indicated that they will have an application pending within the next 2 weeks. So as part of that application process, we should be able to address any ongoing issues with parking and other things that occur on that location.
All right, that'd be appreciated. Thank you. 7F, stiff account update. I know you provided us some information in the packet related to that. Is there anything you want to discuss related to that?
No, we're still successfully making a fair bit of interest off the stiff account, so that's going well. We're just basically maintaining the minimum balance we have to pay our bills locally and leaving the rest in the stiff account.
Okay. All right, thank you. Excellent work. 7G Firehouse meeting, April 14th, 1:30 p.m. Paul? We all good on that date?
Sorry, my connection is not great. Did you ask me something?
I did. I was asking you about the fire department scheduled meeting.
Yep, the 14th is confirmed. I believe we said, yep. We said April 14th at 1:30 at the firehouse. That's confirmed.
Okay. All right, any other questions related to that meeting? No? Okay, all right, thank you very much, Paul. Let's put that on the calendar. Okay. Item 8, new business, 8A, the discussion of the annual audit. Eric, are you good with it? Where are you at?
So I sent a copy to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance of the draft audit. I don't have any real issues with it. We're still awaiting a corrective action plan from the school finance office to address the issues that occur between the town and the school. Other than that, I'm ready to file, but I think both the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, if you have any objections to it, I will raise them with the auditor. But other than that, after the Board of Finance meeting in a couple of days, I would like to submit that.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions related to that? Okay. 8B, discussion on fire department heavy rescue sale.
So I'll give you this verbally. The fire chief and Board of Fire Commissioners have both asked me whether the town would allow them to sell the heavy rescue prior to getting the replacement squad vehicle. Because he said basically if they wait, the company that they're buying the squad vehicle from will give them like $20,000 for both vehicles in trade-in. And he feels it's a lot smarter to take the time now and try to broker it and try to sell it. And they'll be able to cover themselves with the light rescue temporarily long enough to get the squad. And since they already have a tanker and one engine, they'll just rely on mutual aid for their second engine in the meantime. So, but that requires, you would have to, as a board, agree to in motion to allow them to consider offers or to try to sell it ahead of time.
Okay, has the fire commission approved that?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone else on the board have any issues related to that? With their attempt to sell it? Okay. Is there anything that you want us to do related to that issue, Eric?
It would make sense for you to make a motion to allow the fire department to get offers and to broker the sale of the heavy rescue vehicle.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we allow the fire commission to seek offers on the department's heavy rescue vehicle for sale.
I'll second.
All right, any further questions on that? Any issues? Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Okay. 8C, update on the Department of Public Works equipment projections.
Yeah, so you had asked and Jay sent you all a spreadsheet, and the whole spreadsheet I didn't put in there, but a spreadsheet which had the updated information. You had asked for a summary of the projections for vehicles going forward, and that's been provided to you
Okay,
and Board of Finance and CIP.
okay, so in just so on page 25 of our packet, there's a 15-year capital equipment cost and a 16-year capital equipment cost. Can you tell us what the difference is?
Sure. So if you look at the first one you're looking at was the plan that we originally produced in 2018. And the lower one is the plan as of today. Updated with 6 years later and how that looks.
And isn't there an issue? What is the issue currently with the Department of Public Works? Just refresh my memory. If we chose to do what Jay was requesting, we would give him authorization to buy a current vehicle now. Is that correct? Is that required? Or we haven't done that, right?
We haven't. That's still that when we hold the public meeting, that will be one of the items, presuming the Board of Finance goes along with it, and that's on their agenda for 2 days from now. That it would, because it's something that we would be financing, that requires a public meeting approval for. The public would have to weigh in and agree to finance the roadside mower.
Okay. So the difference between the prior equipment analysis and the current one is an additional $9,000 or $8,000 of annual expenses.
So, yes, in layman's terms, when we laid it out in 2018, we laid out a 15-year plan to bring all of Public Works up to modern standards. We're really far along in that, and we've made major improvements to that. The advantage of that is our rate of buying can slow down considerably for what it was, because the majority of the really old stuff is off the books. And if we get the trailer and we replace the roadside mower, we're in fairly good shape, and now we're just in the replacing things on their normal life schedule, as opposed to trying to bring everything up to the modern era because it's all old, if that makes sense.
It does. So you're telling us we've done a good job.
Yep.
Excellent. Good job. Now we just need to get the next thing approved. All right. Does anyone have any questions related to the Department of Public Works equipment projections? Okay, 8D, review the significant taxpayer list.
I did not put this in the packet, but I sent it to you separately because you had asked me to provide that information. So as soon as I had that, I sent that to the board to review. I don't know where you want to go with it, or whether you want to share that publicly, or what you want to do with that.
Oh, I do want to share it publicly. Absolutely. Well, let's put it on our agenda for our next meeting so we can ask some questions related to that information that you provided us, so we can maybe get a little bit more detail as to the exact nature of those properties, and especially the commercial properties, so everybody understands them.
Okay.
Anyone have any issues with that right now? And we can discuss it, Eric, toward our next meeting, but does any of the other members have any other issues related to the list that we have previously received? Or anything that they want to look at moving forward related to that? Okay,
So do you then want the assessor on? Or because I'm not gonna be the guy that can answer all the property questions. So if you want to ask those types of questions, my suggestion would be we ask Mr. Chaponis to be on the meeting.
I don't necessarily know that our questions are going to be, why was something assessed at one value versus another? And if they are, they should be asked separately to the assessor.
Okay?
I think it would be helpful for us all to understand that there's certain commercial properties in town and this is how much they pay. And so that the residents of our town can understand that commercial development might be beneficial to our community if at all possible, because of the taxes it does pay. And I think it's also pretty good for us to understand what and how some of the residents in town are taxed that are on the upper end of that list. Okay.
Okay.
Let's move on to 8E, a discussion of extensive tree trimming on Burnup Brook Road.
So Jay asked me to start this discussion with you. Probably the biggest single issue that we have right now in terms of extensive tree trimming would be Burnap Brook Road. But the issue with Burnap, and there's a lot of stuff we have to take down, but there's also an awful lot of stuff that's just closer to the road and the road surface than we would like. His concern is that if he takes down everything he thinks he would want to take down, it will change the character of the road and make it a lot more open than it is now. So before he starts proposing that and starts working that into the schedule, he wanted the Board of Selectmen to take a look at it and see what you all think, so that he's not, basically he doesn't want to hang himself out to dry if he cuts a whole bunch of stuff on Burnap Brook and then the residents are pissed or the Board of Selectmen's pissed at him. So that's his concern with that.
Okay, Scott, knowing your expertise in trees, is it possible for you to get with Jay and look at what his thought is on Burnap Brook Road?
Right, did he come up with a cost number yet?
No, but I mean, given the other roads that we've done, we certainly could fit it in next year's, allotment of monies.
Right.
I mean, the question is more an aesthetic question than it is a cost question, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
A lot of the trees on that road,
Question.
the butts of the trees are growing almost next to the asphalt. They're growing, so close to the road that they do overstory the whole road. Yeah.
Okay, so again, Scott, I'll ask you the same question. Do you think you have time to sit with Jay to look at it from an
I
aesthetic?
will. I'll meet with him. Yeah.
Does anyone else on the Board of Selectmen, and I know, Ann, you have a question, and we'll get to it 1 second, but does anybody have a problem with Scott doing that on our behalf? Okay, Ann, what do you got?
I'm just curious. I drove down that street and I can see how there's a lot of trees close to the road. How far in is the town right of way so that they would be trimming? Or are they gonna cut beyond the right of way? Is it just in the right of way?
No, we're not cutting beyond the right of way because we need homeowner permission to do that anyway. And as a general rule,
Yeah.
we don't cut off the town's right of way if we can, unless there's
Okay.
some, dire catastrophic reason to do it.
Okay.
All we're talking about is within the right of way.
How far in does the right of way go, or how's that measured again?
So as an approximation from the center line of the road, going about 25 feet in either side is the town's right of way. The town generally has a 50-foot right of way. We would have to look at the actual road itself to figure out exactly what it is, because that's not true everywhere. But generally speaking, we own a 50-foot right of way in town roads.
So that normally
Okay, thank you.
extends in 10 feet?
So normally that's at least 10. Generally speaking, it's about 12 feet in off the edge of pavement is town, is town property. Town right
There's,
of way.
there's quite a bit of that road, Jeff, that has walls on it, so those would be noted,
Okay.
whatever mapping there is.
All right, if we can sit there and Scott, if you can sit there and talk to Jay and then come back at the next meeting and let us know that, if you agree or disagree with what he's looking at doing, that would be helpful to us. So
Okay.
appreciate that. All right, let's move on to item 9, approval of minute meetings for February 21st and February 26th. Somebody want to make a motion?
I don't have a great connection here, but I will try. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the February 21st, 2024 special meeting and the February 20, actually, should we do them separately if anybody has any changes?
Sure, go ahead. We'll do them separately.
All right.
I'll second it. All right, further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
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 I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the February 26, 2024 special budget meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ann seconded that first, so we'll give it to Ann. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Item 10, the treasurer's report and the finance, includes finance department. Eric,
One quick question before we go back to that. If you don't want John Chaponis on that conversation, do you want me to show the screen showing the properties that you asked for and we could review it now? So we don't have to put it off till next meeting?
no, it's not critical that it's done tonight. It's
Okay.
something that is more in a general sense that we should all be aware of and understanding how, we generate money, especially from commercial properties, and how much that raises for the town and what we potentially can do moving forward. So we're on item 10, the treasurer's report. Eric, the information provided, there wasn't anything specific from my end, and I'll start, but on the revenue side, we have not received the second component of the educational ECS funding.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of that until very late in the year. So yeah, I would assume we have not gotten that yet.
Okay.
And I haven't seen it come through on the list of requisitions, so.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions related to the expense section, the town budget, actual budget through February? Okay. So contingency, just for one last thing, contingency, because we've talked about it, there's currently $45,000 remaining in contingency, Eric.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any questions on check register that was provided to us? No. I did want to ask about the interim balances by class. So this is basically going by fund. So.
Right.
So the equipment fund relates to town equipment, and that's what's left is $25,000? Well, 100, I'm sorry, 119, my bad. I was looking.
Yeah,
at
okay. I was gonna say,
119. Yeah, 119.
yeah, correct.
Okay. And then currently in tree removal, we have $44,000 that's, anticipated on being spent between now and,
Well,
when?
we have a lot less of that. We just haven't got the bills in. We've had tenant working a lot the last month or so. So I would say we've spent well more than half of that in the last month. It's just not, we don't have the bills yet, so it's not reflected here. But tenant is actively working in the town. We are collaborating with Eversource, again, working down our project list.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions related to any of those items? Okay, Eric, how many of these funds would you like to get off of our books and move some other place?
The vast majority of them, to be honest. We are working on that. Cheryl and I are working on that again. I mean, frankly, we've carried the transfer station shed as a liability now for the last 3 years. We need to get just the Board of Finance to agree to transfer money from that, from either the multi-use building fund or the building maintenance fund. That was hearkening back to a project that was done 4 years ago. At the end of the day, we overspent that project total by $7,000 or $8,000, and it's still on the books. So that one needs to go away. We've gotten rid of a lot of the funds, but we still have, some we need to deal with.
Pedestrian Bridge Fund, Times Farms Bridge Fund.
Yeah, so the Times Farm Bridge Fund, I mean, we're gonna basically roll that money into the Bridge and Culvert Fund. I mean, I'm counting on that to get us to the amount of money we actually need to fix for the bridge on Lake, or the culvert on Lake Street or Lake Road.
Let's go through that. Obviously, when you get with Cheryl, let's clean up as many of these as we possibly can. I mean, there's some significant dollars, and if we could push them into areas that would be more available and ready to be spent on projects that are important, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay, let's go on to the tax collector's report. Any issues related to this report from anyone? Okay. Collected $165,000 last month. Low month, not a collection month. And Eric, did we talk about the uncollected taxes by year and trying to get these balances to sync? Did you talk?
We have had that discussion, and she and I spent a fair bit of time reviewing. If you look down in the 2022 column for uncollected taxes by year, you'll notice that number is around 2 million, not around 8 million. So that should be much closer. That should be correct at this point.
Okay. It's close. $6,000, I'll take it.
Well, but the problem is that this report and the pie graph one aren't necessarily made. One is made on the first of the month, and one is made whenever she happens to print that out. So those never match because they're off a few days and when they were created. That's part of the issue with that. Because I raised that concern myself and got that answer.
All right, any of the other reports in any of the assessor's office report? Anything related to that? Okay. Building department. 28 total permits issued in the month. Okay. Department of Public Works, anybody have any questions related to that documentation and information provided us? No, okay. And so that extends out in the library report that was provided to us. The registrar of voters. They processed 65 voters in town for February. Okay. Senior transportation provided an addition of probably close to 100 trips. And they took a wonderful picture of the senior drivers. Thank you very much, Kathy.
Actually, I took that picture, but
You took that picture?
yeah,
You
I think
provided.
they all look good in their Andover senior transportation uniforms.
There you go.
So I got them all together in one spot, so I took a picture.
All right, and how are the new vehicles going? At least
Good. So we, as of today, got a bunch of paperwork back from the state, which is all the forms we have to fill out when we actually get the vehicle to commission it. You know, inspection report, exterior inspection, interior inspection, all that kind of stuff. As far as I understand, we're looking at the middle of April to actually take delivery of the vehicle per the coach manufacturer who's building.
okay.
So-
And then how about the new the small SUV? Working well? No
Yep,
problem.
that's working great. You know, going fine. Everybody seems happy with it. Nice, comfortable vehicle to drive.
Easy access. The seniors are satisfied with it. No problems.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Correspondence. We had some information from the fuel assistance fund donation.
Yeah, so I just wanted to publicly thank the church in Columbia. They are one of a couple different civic organizations that donate money to the Andover Fuel Bank. As you probably may or may not know, we don't actually, our fuel reserve, our emergency fuel reserve, we don't, that's not funded via taxation, that's funded through donations. So, and we had recently pretty well run out the monies that are in the fund, so now we're nice and solvent again if we have to provide emergency fuel assistance for a resident. And just so that you know, the way this program works is for us to give them fuel, they have to basically be out of fuel, number one, and they have to have already done the paperwork to get fuel through the access agency. And then we just basically supply, we keep them going long enough for them to get through the paperwork and get on the state fuel assistance program. It's kind of a bridge to keep people from, you know, freezing until they can qualify for state assistance.
Okay.
And that's a program that Roberta runs.
Okay. Very nice of St. Columba. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Right. Anything else related to any of the departmental reports or correspondence by any of the other members? Okay. All right, let's move on to public speak. We'll start with Diane Grenier.
Hello. I just wanted to comment again on the sign. You talked about the reflective letters. I was single-handedly in charge of getting the big sign for the Veterans Monument Park. I did a whole lot of research on that. And one of the things was the gold leafing. And it's not a matter of cost. It's how reflective it is. It's awful. Take a look in Hebron. They've got a lot of gold leaf. St. Maurice's Church, St. George's, and at night with the headlights on cars, you can't read it. It's so reflective, you can't read the letters. On a bright sunshiny day, again, it's way too reflective. So you might want to take a look at that before you decide. Go out at nighttime and take a look at that.
Thank you very much.
That was it. Thank you very much. It's always very informative.
Okay, thank you. Joanne Ebert.
Just reiterating my point, hoping to see a public meeting in the next few weeks. It'll just be so helpful to get community input with, you know, some of the ideas that are out there and, you know, the big expensive items that are coming before all the boards that have to make decisions on things. You know, we love to have the public input and, yeah, just looking forward to having that soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Am I missing anyone else on at the very end? Dennis O'Brien, if you'd like to participate on both sides of public speak, you're more than welcome. Wow, silence. Come on, Dennis. All right. That would be it for public speak. And now I make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss how would you want me to phrase it, Eric?
I would just say employee matters.
Employee matters. I'll make a motion that we move to executive session to discuss employee matters.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Okay,
And who are you inviting into executive
Aye.
session?
we're going to invite Eric Anderson and Attorney Dennis O'Brien into executive session.
Okay.
All right.